Well, Mukesh Kapila is a Professor Emeritus at the University of Manchester and was actually also the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for Sudan. Great to have you on the programme. And, of course, as you know better than anyone, a third of Sudan was already dependent on humanitarian aid before this recent fighting. What does what's happening now mean for the aid response, displaced people, refugees?
I think the aid crisis is already there. The humanitarian crisis is already there, with basically healthcare collapsed and the lack of food and water. And today we live at a time where if you can't access your bank account, then you have an additional burden on you. But you've got to look at it in three dimensions. There is a focus on Khartoum, and in urbanized areas where people are very dependent on modern ways of surviving, things are pretty bad. Then there are the thousands of people on the move, and they have additional needs as they move, including being harassed by armed groups and criminals and so on. And then forgotten in the shadow of Khartoum is a rising crisis in Darfur, where this whole problem started 20 years ago. And here we are hearing much more disturbing stories about the revival of ethnic cleansing type warfare that is already restarted in the faraway Darfur region. So there's a number of different humanitarian contexts around the country, all of them dire.
Incredible. As you were UN resident and a humanitarian coordinator for Sudan, if you were there now, what would be your priorities if you could still stay there and if you weren't evacuated as many foreign nationals are being?
Well, I would resist any form of evacuation for as long as possible, unless directly targeted. I mean, sure, you can get caught in the crossfire, and that's really tragic. But unless you are being targeted, I do not think these evacuations really are justified, quite honestly. Having said that, I think it'll be a question of trying to find safe spaces, safe corridors, and ensuring that one supports local capacities. After all, people are surviving, people are helping each other out. And we've been hearing loads of stories on how people are doing that in terms of helping their neighbors and taking a trickle in and trickle down approach to aid rather than massive quantities of aid being supplied or airlifted. Because unfortunately, that becomes then a focus for looting and then further violence on those who go and receive the help. So a kind of under the radar approach to aid provision, starting off obviously with the basics and building on local workers and local capacities, of which there are a considerable amount in Sudan.
And Mukesh, you say that the evacuations, or some of them, are not justified, but not having these foreign nationals there on the ground, what impact does that have?
Well, I can only speak from my own tragic experience that 20 years ago, I was forced for security pressure by UN headquarters in New York, my bosses, to withdraw the UN mission in Darfur in total. What happened was that when I returned along with my team about a couple of months later, the genocide had taken place. So unobserved, without eyes and ears on the ground, horrendous things happened then. And now the early signals we're getting back from Darfur, which of course no one is focusing on that there because all eyes are on Khartoum at the moment, and it's difficult to get out anyway. So what I fear is that if everyone withdraws, then who knows what nasty things will happen. Then we're not here talking about just a humanitarian crisis. We're here talking about atrocities taking place, revenge killings. And this is an existentialist conflict going on between the two main protagonists. And then also various other regional fighters are also coming into action. So I think it's a protection issue as much as it's a humanitarian issue.
Mukesh Kapila, fantastic to get your personal experience on Sudan and, of course, your perspective. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.